Hey folks, so this is section 4.3, and if you would please, let's go down to the example number 2. But before I do that, I'd like to point out this handy dandy formula to you. Keep that in front of you because we're going to be using that here in just a moment. In class, we'll talk about the conjugate zeros theorem, so I'm not interested at this very moment that you understand what that is. We are going to be going over it in class, and I'll refer to it in this video. But for now, just understand that there is a theorem that we will be talking about during class. So if we're down here at example number 2, it tells me that 0 and 4 minus 3i are zeros of a cubic. And we are asked to find the missing zeros and to find the standard equation of p of x. So the first thing is, let's list the two zeros that they've given us. I know that x equals 0 is a 0. And I also know that x equals 4 minus 3i is a 0. Now, the conjugate zeros theorem that I just now referenced is what's going to come into play here. Again, I'll talk about this during class. But the conjugate zeros theorem simply says if one complex number is a 0, then the conjugate has to be a 0. So if 4 minus 3i is a 0, that means 4 plus 3i has to be a 0. Before I move any further, for that little formula I told you to keep handy, we're going to need an A and a B out of that. So if you'll look at the two zeros that I just gave you, the A value on there is 4, thinking A plus BI is where I'm getting that A from. The B, you could tell me is a positive 3, or you could tell me is a negative 3. It's not really going to matter when I use my theorem. And I'll point that out to you in just a moment, but for now, just you need to know that your B value is either a 3 or a negative 3. All right, now we want to turn our zeros into factors. So if I want to take my first 0, x equals 0, and turn it into a factor, all I need to do is get the number over to the side of the x. So take 0 over to the side of x, and you still just have x. Same thing with the next one. Take the numbers over to the other side of the x, along with the x. And so when I move the 4 over, when I move the 3i over, it's going to turn into an x minus 4 plus 3i. Same thing with the next two. So take your 4 to the left, take your 3i to the left, and you're going to end up with x minus 4 minus 3i. These right here are the numbers that I'm going to multiply together to get my standard equation. So you notice I was asked for a standard equation. So I'm going to take my 3 factors and I'm simply going to multiply them together. Standard says you actually have to do all of the multiplying. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave that first x alone. I'm just going to leave it standing there. But to multiply these two, I'm going to use that formula that I referred to a moment ago. So now that you know what your A is and what your B is, all you have to do is plug these numbers in. Leave the x's where they are. So go ahead and refer back to this. I can't show them both at the same time, but that's where I'm getting my numbers from. So you see that I left my x where it was. This is, here's my x squared. Here's my 2ax, where a is my 4, plus a squared plus b squared. So that's where I got those numbers from. And from here, we're just going to simplify that. Then we'll combine our like terms. The last thing I'll do is distribute my x so that I have my standard equation of x cubed minus 8x squared plus 25x.